My next patron question is from Joey, who wants to know about the unfair treatment of a specific animated sequel. I've seen 2 animation reviewers say that Toy Story 4 is unnecessary and it did not need to exist, even though they liked the movie, and to be honest, I honestly think that's strange. As you once said, there are movies you love that did not need to exist, but they do and you're happy they are. This got me thinking about the direct-to-video sequels to the Disney animated movies, as well as other movies of their kind, such as the direct-to-video sequels to The Land Before Time. I used to think that major criticism of these types of movies were that they were pointless and did not need to exist, but I realized something. Unless I'm wrong, the criticisms towards those movies were not that they were unnecessary, but rather that they're serious downgrades from the original movies, and that they were easy and inexpensive for companies to cash in on said original movies. Maybe there's something I'm missing here, but why do you think Toy Story 4 is getting that treatment? And are there movies that don't need to exist, including those direct-to-video sequels? I agree with Joey that it's unusual seeing people label Toy Story 4 as an unnecessary sequel. I understand that for many, the ending of Toy Story 3 was considered a perfect end. However, while that was probably the end of the toys' time with Andy, that did not necessarily mean their journey would finish there, and that someone at Pixar could not think of a new possible place to take them. After all, each Toy Story movie explored a new aspect of being a toy. The first film is about the feeling of a new toy coming in and stealing the thunder of the initial favorite plaything. The second went into the idea of toys being viewed as collectibles rather than something for a child to play with, and Woody wondering if he holds more importance being preserved in a glass box in a museum or continuing to be played with Andy for however long that's possible. And then Toy Story 3 showed that day indeed arriving and Woody eventually bringing joy to a new owner. That's only 3 stories, but I feel the concept of the series does lend itself to multiple possible adventures. Andrew Stanton, who's been heavily involved in the scripts for all the Toy Story movies, was the person who got the ball rolling on the 4th film. His reasoning was that while Woody's time with Andy is over, there's now a new world he has to face. He went from being the former favorite toy to now just one that his owner Bonnie might occasionally play with. I personally love Toy Story 4 and thought it did an exceptional job of taking Woody to new places and expanding on the world, including introducing the idea of a child creating their own toy out of scraps and that coming to life. Honestly, my attitude with sequels is often this: if they don't make another film in a series, well, that's okay. But if the filmmakers or some other person decide to make a sequel, well, I'm curious to see what they've come up with. Because what's wrong with revisiting some characters and seeing what they've gotten up to? There are probably multiple examples of films that seem like odd choices to get sequels, and then the follow-ups turned out really well. Richard Linklater did not have to check in again on the 2 main characters from his film Before Sunrise, but he did that anyway and it was great. He then did that again with Before Midnight 9 years later, and it was also worthwhile. I wonder if the attitude surrounding Toy Story 4 also might have to do with an aversion to Pixar sequels. People want them to exclusively make original films. Admittedly, I used to be someone who worried about the many sequels they announced in the 2010s, but I ended up enjoying many of them and getting to hang out with the characters again, so what do I even have to complain about? And in the case of Woody and Buzz, they are the Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny of Pixar. Imagine if Disney stopped producing Mickey cartoons, or Warner Brothers decided to completely retire the Looney Tunes. I think the Toy Story characters are ones that can be passed down to each generation. I should mention I love all 4 Toy Story movies almost equally, and find them all to be a 10 out of 10. So it would be strange and out of character for me to go, oh no, they're making another one. Toy Story 5 is even being directed by Andrew Stanton. I've greatly enjoyed pretty much everything he has been credited as a director or writer on, and he is my favorite of the Pixar directors. Now, are there movies that don't need to exist? I feel like the only ones that truly don't need to exist are actually dangerous ones, namely propaganda films whose entire reason for being is to further spread a terrible ideology. I remember a Twitter question that went viral a while back asking people to name the most evil movies, and people were responding with things like Jurassic World and Little Miss Sunshine and Barbie. With all due respect, all of you have failed this question because the correct answer is Triumph of the Will. That's a movie that had it not been made and screened in German cinemas in the 1930s, the world probably would be a slightly better place. But nobody is going to be hurt by The Land Before Time 6 being released and a mother picking up for her children at the supermarket, or someone at Pixar having an idea for what Woody does next. Frankly, if us almost not seeing a recent Looney Tunes movie or an acclaimed filmmaker like David Lynch struggling to get financing should teach us anything, it's that any film being made and somehow released into the world is a miracle. Thank you for your question, Joey.